It was a warm afternoon in April 2021 when a construction crew began clearing an old lot near Highway 177, just a few miles outside Stillwater. They were prepping the ground for a new parking structure when one worker's shovel hit something hard, something that didn't sound like rock or metal. At first, he thought it might have been debris from an old foundation. But when he brushed the dirt away, he froze. Lying in the soil was a small silver bracelet, dull from years underground, yet still reflecting a faint glimmer under the Oklahoma sun. Engraved into it were two simple letters, EC. The foreman recognized the initials instantly. He'd grown up in Stillwater, and he remembered the missing girl from '91. Police arrived within the hour, sealing off the site. What began as a routine call soon turned into a scene that made seasoned officers go quiet. A few feet from where the bracelet was found, investigators uncovered bone fragments, fragile, weathered, but unmistakably human. Within days, forensic teams confirmed what everyone feared. The remains belonged to Emily Carter, the 17-year-old who vanished without a trace 3 decades earlier. News spread like wildfire. For locals, it was as if a ghost from the past had clawed her way back into the present, demanding to be heard. The discovery reignited a fire that had long burned out. Detectives reopened the Carter file, dusting off yellowed photos, outdated reports, and stacks of handwritten notes. What had once been dismissed as a runaway case now looked disturbingly deliberate. For Emily's mother, who had kept her daughter's bedroom untouched all these years, the bracelet's return felt like a message. A piece of Emily whispering from the ground, "You finally found me." And for Stillwater's quiet streets, that single find unearthed not just a body, but decades of secrets buried beneath the Oklahoma dirt. After Emily's remains were identified, the Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation reopened the cold file with renewed intensity. Every piece of evidence, from the rusted key ring to the faded car seat covers, was sent back to the lab for modern testing. In 1991, the technology had been limited. Fingerprints were manually compared, DNA testing was primitive, and many details slipped through the cracks. But in 2021, advanced forensic software could detect partial prints invisible to the naked eye. When analysts swabbed Emily's old Chevy Nova, the car she'd been driving that night, they discovered a faint fingerprint on the driver side door handle. It had been overlooked for 3 decades, preserved by chance, protected by time. When that partial print was scanned through the national AFIS database, it returned a match almost instantly. The name on the screen made the lead investigator's blood run cold. Deputy Sheriff Paul Danner, the very same officer who'd helped lead the original search for Emily Carter. For years, Danner had been regarded as a pillar of Stillwater's safety. A man who attended church every Sunday, coached Little League, and helped organize neighborhood watches. But the computer didn't lie. His fingerprint was a perfect match for the one on Emily's car. Investigators double-checked, then triple-checked, trying to convince themselves it had to be an error. It wasn't. Detectives began quietly building a timeline. Danner had been 25 years old in 1991, new to the force, ambitious, and known for taking every call personally. He was one of the first officers on the scene when Emily's abandoned car was found idling by the roadside. He'd even filed the initial report, claiming he saw no signs of foul play. Now, that same report looked like a smokescreen. As the evidence mounted, the image of a respected lawman began to fracture. The print was undeniable proof that Danner had touched Emily's car. But the question was why? And beneath that question lurked a darker one Stillwater wasn't ready to face. Had the man sworn to protect them been the predator among them all along? When investigators summoned Deputy Paul Danner for questioning, he walked into the interview room with the same quiet confidence he'd shown his entire career. Danner was 60 now, gray-haired, soft-spoken, and the kind of man people trusted without question. Sitting across from detectives, he folded his hands calmly and said he had no idea why his fingerprint would show up on a 30-year-old vehicle. "I worked that case," he explained smoothly. "I probably touched that car while securing the scene." It sounded logical, professional, even, but detectives weren't about convinced. There was something about his tone. Too controlled, too polished. Like a man reading from a script he'd memorized years ago. As the interview went on, inconsistencies began to surface. Danner claimed he'd arrived at the scene hours after other deputies, yet dispatch logs showed his patrol car clocked in 15 minutes after the 911 call, making him the first officer there. One of the retired deputies, now living in Texas, remembered something else. Danner had insisted on personally driving Emily's car to the impound lot that night. He said he wanted to make sure it was done right. The deputy recalled, "Looking back, that decision didn't just seem odd. It seemed intentional." Investigators realized that if Danner handled the car, he could have easily tampered with evidence, manipulating the scene to hide any trace of what really happened. Then came the photograph. It surfaced from an old newspaper archive, a black and white image showing officers at the roadside scene in 1991. There, barely noticeable in the corner, was Danner, standing beside Emily's Chevy Nova, his hand resting on the driver's door, staring into the camera with an expression that now looked haunting. In that photo, you could see the very moment he left behind the fingerprint that would expose him 3 decades later. The same man who once led town parades and comforted grieving families had been standing at the heart of the mystery the entire time. A guardian turned deceiver, hiding his crime behind a badge that people had never thought to question. When investigators finally confronted Paul Danner with the physical evidence, the fingerprint, the photograph, and the dispatch records, his confidence began to crack. Sitting beneath the cold fluorescent lights of the interrogation room, he looked smaller than the man who once commanded respect across Stillwater. The lead detective slid the bracelet across the table, its silver surface dull but unmistakable. "You were there, Paul," the detective said quietly. "You touched her car. You knew Emily." For the first time, Danner's hands trembled. He tried to speak, but his voice came out as a whisper. "You don't know what it was like back then," he said, staring at the floor. The room went silent, except for the sound of the old air conditioner humming in the background, a low, steady reminder that time was running out for him. Hours passed. The detectives left him alone, watching through the glass as he shifted in his chair, hands clenched, muttering to himself. When they returned, he was visibly exhausted, his face pale, eyes hollow. Finally, with a deep exhale, Danner spoke again. "It wasn't supposed to happen," he said. He confessed that on the night of October 13th, 1991, he found Emily stranded by the roadside with a dead battery. He offered her a ride home, something he'd done for dozens of residents before. But somewhere along that dark stretch of highway, the situation spiraled. He said she panicked, tried to run, and in a moment of confusion, he struck her. The words hung heavy in the room. He claimed it was an accident, but investigators could hear the hesitation in his voice, the kind that comes from a man rewriting his own guilt. What followed was a chilling level of detail. Danner described how he wrapped Emily's body in an old patrol blanket, loaded her into his trunk, and drove to a secluded patch of land near the North Canadian River, an area he knew well from his patrol routes. He buried her under loose soil and scattered debris to make it look like nothing more than a forgotten construction dump. For years, he returned to that spot, not out of remorse, but out of fear. He'd make sure no one built there, no one dug too deep. His position in law enforcement gave him control, access, and the illusion of safety. But now, with every word he spoke, that illusion shattered. As the recording device clicked softly in the background, Paul Danner's 30-year secret finally began to unravel, and Stillwater's darkest truth crept into the light. The day news of Paul Danner's arrest broke, Stillwater felt like it had stopped breathing. The man they'd trusted for decades, who waved to neighbors from his patrol car, who visited classrooms to talk about safety, was suddenly at the center of the most horrifying revelation in the town's history. Reporters swarmed the courthouse, and residents gathered outside in stunned silence. Some refused to believe it, insisting it had to be a mistake. Others whispered that they'd always sensed something off about him, the way he'd linger near the high school parking lot, or how he'd never married, always keeping to himself. The image of Danner being led away in handcuffs, his once crisp uniform replaced by an orange jumpsuit, was something no one in Stillwater ever thought they'd see. The quiet streets that had always felt safe now pulsed with an uneasy awareness. Evil hadn't come from outside their community. It had lived among them. Inside the courthouse, Emily Carter's family sat in the front row, faces pale and still. As Danner's confession was read aloud, her mother, Margaret Carter, had spent 30 years keeping her daughter's memory alive, organizing candlelight vigils, attending every anniversary search, refusing to let Emily's story fade. Now, hearing the man responsible speak of that night with mechanical detachment broke something deep inside her. She wept silently, gripping the bracelet recovered from the dirt, the same one she'd given Emily on her 17th birthday. Around her, townspeople shifted uncomfortably, unable to meet her eyes. The courtroom air was thick with guilt, not just Danner's, but the community's own, for trusting him so blindly. After the verdict, Stillwater tried to move on, but it was never the same. The police station was repainted. The old diner where Emily once worked boarded up. Yet a sense of unease lingered in every corner. Some residents swore they could still see Danner's patrol car in their rearview mirrors late at night. A ghostly flash of red and blue lights that vanished when they looked again. Others claimed to hear footsteps near the old riverbed when the wind picked up, soft and measured, like a man on patrol. Though the case was closed, the town itself never truly healed. The people of Stillwater learned the hardest truth of all: monsters don't always hide in the dark. Sometimes they wear a badge and smile. Today, the field where Emily Carter's body was found stands fenced off, overgrown with weeds, forgotten by most, but not by all. Locals say on certain autumn nights, when the wind moves through the grass just right, you can still hear the faint hum of a car engine, the same one that never stopped running the night she disappeared. The old diner she worked at remains closed, its neon sign flickering weakly, like it, too, remembers. Paul Danner spends his life behind bars now, but in Stillwater, his shadow never really left. Because what haunts the town isn't just what he did, it's how long he got away with it. How many times he stood among them, smiling, shaking hands, pretending to protect what he had already destroyed. And maybe that's the most terrifying part of all, that even after 30 years, the truth didn't rise from the dirt. It was dug up by accident. Stillwater learned that the past never truly stays buried. Sometimes, it just waits for someone to dig in the wrong place.
If you liked this video, don't forget to hit that like button, share it with your friends, and drop your thoughts in the comments below. Most importantly, subscribe and hit the bell icon so the next secret finds you first.